Hello! Today I figured to make a list featuring the best player from every single country that's participating in the World Cup. But this is a very early list. Not every single team has been confirmed to qualify yet. So I decided to include those teams that are still in contention to qualify. And who knows, within 6 months' time, we could see another player just rise out of nowhere and become the undisputed best player from that national team. But yeah, feel free to discuss your opinion in the comments below. Let's start off with Group A. We've got Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and Netherlands. Starting out with Qatar, a few options you could choose here. Lots of solid players on this team that a lot of people don't even really recognize. Hassan Al-Haidos, Akram Hafif, but the best of them all, in my opinion, at the moment, is Al-Muaz Ali. This lad's just 25 years of age, and in 72 appearances for the national team, he's already scored 39 goals. Definitely a very dangerous forward where I think the defense of the other teams in this group should not underestimate whatsoever. Now for Ecuador, this was one where I actually had a tough time deciding. We've got a few veterans on the team, such as Valencia, but most of the squad is recognized for their young upcoming talent. And don't get me wrong, this side gels very well together collectively, but amongst these youngsters, it's kind of hard to pick out a standout player. I would say Estupiñán has proved it over the years, as he's had a little bit more experience than some of the others. It's also really hard to ignore the likes of Hincapié. To me, it's between one of those two, and if I gotta choose one, I'm gonna go with Estupiñán. Ecuador fans, please let me know your thoughts on that one, because I'm so indecisive on this pick. Now for Senegal, like I said in nearly every video I talk about this side, best team in Africa on paper. And there definitely are a few standout players, but the one to me that sticks out the most, I think it's a pretty obvious choice. Sadio Mane. I mean, the fact that he's having such a fantastic season for Liverpool right now, and the fact that he also just won the Africa Cup of Nations as well, surely he's one of the contenders for the Ballon d'Or. Obviously, many people are talking about Benzema and Salah as well, but you gotta give respect to Sadio Mane. At the moment, he's one of the best forwards in the world. Now for Netherlands, I think this is a fairly easy choice. I'm going with Virgil van Dijk. Another Liverpool player on this list, but let's be honest, he's one of the best center backs in the world at the moment. Netherlands had a very disappointing Euro 2020 run. Knocked down the round of 16s when they looked like the favorites in that matchup, but Van Dijk was missing in this tournament. With that very nasty injury that lasted all season long, he's back for the national team, and I think he can prove how important he is for the squad. Obviously, Netherlands still have a lot of other fantastic defenders, De Vrij, De Ligt, but Virgil to me is the undisputed best center back on the national team, and best player on the national team as well. Let's move on to Group B now, starting off with the England national team. Not necessarily the easiest pick to make. So many players have been popping off this season. So many debates about which fullbacks are better, such as Reece James or Trent Alexander-Arnold or even Kyle Walker. People still debating from time to time who's better, Phil Foden or Mason Mount. But I definitely think the best player for the England national team is Harry Maguire. Oops, sorry, wrong Harry. I'm going with Harry Kane. Obviously, this guy hasn't been as electric as he was last year. He did have a bit of a rough patch at the beginning of the season. If you ignore that, he's definitely been on form once again. He's got 13 goals and 8 assists in 33 appearances in the Premier League. Definitely seemed to regain his form ever since Conte took charge of Tottenham. This pick, I can't ignore the captain of the national team, and there's still a lot of other players in this England squad to talk about, but amongst the best, I still think Harry Kane deserves that title. Now for Iran. The best thing to show off about for this national team is their attack. The partnership between Taremi and Azmoun. I've said it in many videos, but I think these two can definitely have a serious threat to this tournament. But another key player who should definitely not be ignored is Alireza Jahanbakhsh. He is the key in the gel to the Iranian national team, and I think without him, they could definitely suffer. But at the same time, I just cannot ignore Taremi's numbers this season. In 30 appearances in the Portuguese league, he's got 20 goals and 13 assists to his name at the moment. I'm going to pick Taremi for this video, but I do note that Jahanbakhsh is also a solid shout. I know internationally Jahanbakhsh might be proving himself more, but who knows? The World Cup's in 6 months' time. If Taremi continues his form, he could easily be a standout player in this tournament. And for the USA, so much exciting talent in this squad. Most people are probably expecting me to say Christian Pulisic, and although I have a lot of respect for this guy, I'm actually going to have to choose McKennie. Juventus were obviously struggling at the beginning of the season, but this was one of the few players that was still pulling his weight for the squad. Unfortunately, he did get injured against Villarreal, so we haven't been seeing him much lately, but to me, his absence in the last international break was present. He's just an engine in the midfield, a key player for set pieces. Pulisic definitely the best player in the attack, but in terms of overall the best player, I'm leaning towards McKennie for now. This could change though after 6 months, who knows. And now for the 3 European playoff teams, still to be determined which of these sides will be in the World Cup. I think they're fairly easy choices actually. For Wales, I've gone with Gareth Bale. Come on. For Scotland, Robertson. Definitely. Ukraine might be the trickiest one of the 3, and that's because I think Yarmolenko is such a key player for the national team. But in terms of overall skill, I do think Malinovsky is making a name for himself. It's between one of those two. I think it's similar to the Iranian situation between Jahanbakhsh or Taremi. It's obviously hard to judge Yarmolenko because he doesn't play much for West Ham. I'm going to choose Yarmolenko. I know that might contradict to my previous choice for Iran, but the likes of Taremi have just impressed me way too much this season. Malinovsky obviously has impressed me, but Atalanta have been a bit inconsistent here and there. So I'm going to go for Yarmolenko on this pick. But there's still a lot of other players to talk about that can definitely prove their worth over the years. Zinchenko, Yaremchuk. So this is a pick that can very much change soon. Let's move on to Group C now, starting off with Argentina. Obviously, there's so many other players that are making a name for themselves now. Argentina are in safe hands even when this lad leaves, but I'm obviously going to choose Messi for this video. And unfortunately, this is the last time we'll be able to say that he's the best player in the squad. His last World Cup, I'm Argentina. Make the most out of this tournament. Now for Saudi Arabia, the key talking point for this side is their defense. And if I were to choose a defender, it would be Al-Shahrani. But with that being said, there is one key player that could be utilized in the attack or the midfield, and that man is Al-Dawsari. Versatile player on the left, and I think he's key for this team if they want to have any creativity. Mexico, this one is interesting. In the past, I would have said the likes of their striker Jimenez, but there's a reason why the Mexican fans miss Chicharito. In recent times, Jimenez has not been living up to the hype, and you still got the likes of Lozano as well. I even would have said him as a contender in the past, but now I think the key player for Mexico is Edson Alvarez. This lad has proved he is such a key player for Ajax and even the national team, and I think he's possibly one of the top 3 players in CONCACAF. Poland, we've gone for a very obvious choice again, Robert Lewandowski. In this season in the Bundesliga, he's got 34 goals in 32 appearances, 13 goals in the Champions League in 10 appearances. This man should have gotten a Ballon d'Or by now. That's how key he is. And Poland have been disappointing in the recent tournaments. They're going to want to go all out now. This could be his last World Cup. I don't mind if you disagree with some of my other picks, but if you disagree with me on this one, I don't know what to tell you. Let's move on to Group D now. Starting off with France. This is just the most stacked squad in the tournament. But they are under speculation with the World Cup curse and all that. Some people don't believe all that, but who knows? Regardless though, there's so many players to choose from. But I think the 2 that are in contention for being the best are both attackers. Probably know where I'm going with this. Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema. They both have insane numbers this season. In Ligue 1, Mbappe has 24 goals and 16 assists in 32 appearances. In La Liga, Benzema has 26 goals and 11 assists in 30 appearances. In the Champions League, in 8 appearances, Mbappe has 6 goals and 6 assists. While Benzema, obviously this guy's been talked about a lot due to his Champions League success, has got 14 goals and 1 assist in 10 appearances. Many people are saying how he deserves the Ballon d'Or this season. It is 100% between these 2. Benzema has just been so terrific this season, hasn't he? I mean, he's proven it on the big stage, the Champions League. And Real Madrid have had a very tough road in the Champions League. Benzema should be getting the call up for the national team. I feel like he will. I'm saying this leans towards Karim Benzema. Mbappe cutting it so close. It's definitely between those 2. But we gotta honor Benzema as this is probably his last international tournament. Maybe he'll stick around for the Euros, but who knows? World Cup wise, I don't know. Let's cherish Mbappe in the future and appreciate Benzema while we have him. I'm saying Karim Benzema is the best player on France at the moment. Now for Denmark, I've gone for their goalkeeper, Kasper Schmeichel. Obviously, Leicester have had a very inconsistent season, but this guy always proves that he's one of the most hardworking players. Very determined and focused all the time, and Leicester were suffering a lot of injuries this season. You gotta keep that in mind. Goalkeepers can look like saints with their clean sheet record, but we gotta keep in mind the defense helps them out so much. And with all those injuries, I think Kasper Schmeichel still has proved his worth this season to be amongst the best players in Denmark. Obviously, there's so many talking points for this national team. One of the more underrated teams in Europe. Obviously, Kjær was phenomenal in the Euros, but he's currently going through an injury that's lasted a very long time. I do hope he comes back at full swing. What a player, but For now, I'm sticking with Casper. Now for Tunisia, this side's filled with underrated players. Their captain, Youssef Messakhni, is crucial, but I think the one that deserves the best player recognition is Kazri. I don't want to forget about Skihiri though, he's also been very solid for Con. Now for all the teams to still be determined, Peru, Australia, and the UAE. Starting off with Peru, so many underrated gems yet again. I'm going with Tapia from Celta Vigo. Lapadula has also been proving his worth, but he's still being compared to the previous strikers. Farfan could still make an appearance for the Peruvian national team, but I do think he's past his prime. I'm going with Tapia. Australia, this country has been slightly disappointing in the qualifiers so far. Maybe they can turn things around in these playoffs, but things are looking a bit doubtful for them. But I do think their best player at the moment is Matthew Ryan, their goalkeeper. Now for the UAE, although their captain Walid Abbas has had a lot of history with the team, their forward Kyle, a bit of a late bloomer, has recently been stepping up. Only 19 appearances at 31 years of age, but he's got 6 goals, the most out of any forward on the UAE. Now for Group E, let's start off with Spain. A bit of a tough one to call as we won't even know the Spanish squad at this point. I was a bit surprised with Enrique's selection in the Euros. We didn't see De Gea start though, while he's having a terrific season this year despite his defense not pulling through. Obviously no Sergio Ramos. There are so many exciting talents that are emerging in the scene. I do think the best player in the Spanish national team at the moment is Laporte. What an absolute snag from the France national team. I really don't know what they were thinking leaving him out. This guy's nearly doubled all of his defensive stats compared to his actual appearances in the Premier League. We've seen how key City have been this season, and their defense have been a huge part. He's definitely the most crucial one, and we've seen him have such an impact for Spain ever since he's joined them. This is a bit of a tough one to decide. Spain is a very well-balanced squad all around, apart from their attack maybe. But their midfield and the defense, too many huge talking points. I'm giving it to Laporte for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I feel like this one might be debatable. Now for Germany, very similar situation to Spain. What a well-balanced team. Very hard to necessarily pick someone out and consider them the absolute best. We've got the likes of Joshua Kimmich and Goretzka blooming. But then you can still turn to the veterans Thomas Müller, Manuel Neuer, who might be past their prime but are still very much proving their worth. I'm giving this one to Neuer, although it's a tough call. I mean, the fact that there's so many amazing German goalkeepers that are trying to prove their worth, make it to the national team, and this guy still hasn't gave up his starting role after so long. Now for Japan, after trying to decide which one was the best, it made me realize how unfortunate this side is to be in this group, as there is so much exciting talent. If they were in a different group, I would think they had a very good chance to make it to the next round. And they still could prove me wrong, but I think Spain and Germany are just improving too much. You've got the likes of Ito, Kamada, Tomiyasu, Endo, and even Minamino. This one might be a bit tough to judge because you kind of got to base it on form overall this season. And all these players have had their moments. I'm definitely itching between either Ito or Kamada. But you know what? I cannot ignore Ito's numbers this season. In 34 appearances in the Belgian league, 8 goals and 15 assists. This is one of those options where things can very much change in 6 months, and this pick can very much not age well. I mean, who knows? We could see Tomiyasu suddenly start for Arsenal's consistency and absolutely fly with this side. Regardless, though, I'm sticking with Ito. His individual performances have been too good to rule out this year. And now for those 2 playoff teams, New Zealand or Costa Rica. Actually, very easy to decide. I'm going to be brief with them. Costa Rica, obvious pick. Their goalkeeper, Keylor Navas. That's 2 goalkeepers we're choosing for this group in particular. And then New Zealand, their striker, Chris Wood. Maybe he can carry this side to qualify for the World Cup against the mighty Costa Rica. Now for Group F. I apologize if I'm a little bit brief on this group, but this is also the group where I think all the choices are very obvious. Belgium, Kevin De Bruyne. Belgium really need this guy to step up at this World Cup. Otherwise, we might not see the best from this side, as the rest of the golden generation doesn't look as prominent as before. In the past, I would have had this debate between Eden Hazard and De Bruyne. Hazard's out of the picture now, it seems like. Who knows if he'll even be in the national team for the World Cup. I'm going for Kevin De Bruyne. Canada, Alphonso Davies. Obviously, there's a lot of underrated players to talk about as well, but Alphonso Davies, I think, is the clear winner. Morocco. Achraf Hakimi. Yes, PSG didn't get the season they wished, but Hakimi was still a very prominent figure. The free kicks he scores for Morocco are also just out of this world. He's a defender, but he can do it all. Hakimi, easy pick. Croatia. Luka Modric, 2018 Ballon d'Or winner. One of the best midfielders in the world. People are actually starting to compare him to the likes of Xavi and Iniesta. He's going to be 37 once the World Cup starts. And there's no doubt in my mind that once the World Cup actually begins, he'll still prove to everyone that he's not done yet. He's still got a few years ahead of him. What a key player to Croatia. And honestly, might be a bit of a biased take, but I think he's one of the most exciting midfielders to watch. Now for Group G, starting off with Brazil. This squad is absolutely stacked. Definitely World Cup winning contenders. And although this lad might be past his prime and, you know, a lot of people are kind of disappointed with how his career turned out, keeping the same answer as before, Neymar Jr. Say what you want about this guy's career. Say what you want about his previous World Cup encounter. Yeah, I know he was a bit annoying diving and all that. But you can't ignore the fact that this guy just goes all out for the national team always. Now for Serbia, it's between Dusan Tadic or Dusan Vlahovic. Which Dusan are we picking? Both of these guys had very similar records to what Messi and Ronaldo had in calendar years in the past. Tadic with the assists, Vlahovic with the goals. This season in the Serie A, Dusan Vlahovic has gotten 23 goals and 5 assists in 33 appearances, while Dusan Tadic has got 13 goals and 17 assists in 31 appearances. Both of those records are absolutely insane. With Tadic's leadership and experience though, we gotta keep in mind he's the captain for both his club and country. I think he wins over Vlahovic for now. Not to mention Serbia have a lot of other strikers to still utilize. I think Tadic would be more missed from the squad than Vlahovic because they can still utilize either Mitrovic or even Jovic very well. Now for Switzerland. We got to rely on their goalkeeper on this one, don't we? I mean, Sommer just impressed so much in the Euros. Yes, obviously Mönchengladbach are not having a great season, but you know what? A lot of these Swiss players this season for their clubs still pulled through, but overall their club is not excelling to the level as expected. Akanji from Dortmund is a great example. Shaqiri is still highly regarded even though he went to the MLS. The Switzerland national team, when they unite together, are just on another level, and I think Sommer deserves the best player. I mean, this keeper handles himself very well under pressure, beating France on a penalty shootout, nearly doing it against Spain, and still having a terrific match against them. Now for Cameroon, I would include Matip in this equation, but he hasn't played for the national team since 2015. Maybe he'll change his mind and join once the World Cup starts. Looking a bit doubtful though. Maybe that won't age well, but with all that being considered, I'm gonna have to lean towards the two players, either AAvfx or Toko Ekambi. To me, the two stand-up players for Cameroon at the moment. And you know what? I am gonna choose Toko Ekambi. He's the one that scored the last-minute goal against Algeria to send them to the World Cup. So obviously playing in a tougher league as well than Aboubakar, and his numbers are looking a lot better. Now for Group H. Actually, another pretty straightforward group. Well, maybe. Portugal, with all the exciting talent that they now have, you still gotta choose Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, he's not having the best season of his life, but he is playing with the struggling Manchester United, where he's very much not at fault. And still, his quote-unquote bad season is a great season for other players. 17 goals and 3 assists in 28 appearances in the Premier League. One of the best players in the world. Appreciate him while you can. This is most likely his last World Cup. For Ghana, I've gone with Thomas Partey. Yes, I've been talking a lot about Issa Haku, the very exciting youngster who's absolutely electric in the attack, but Partey, the center defensive mid, I think is clearly the best player at the moment. He's been proving his worth for Arsenal, regaining his form a bit. Yeah, this Ghana side might not be the strongest we've ever seen, but I think Partey is still a key component. Now for Uruguay, a very interesting side with a lot of new players coming in, but also you can't ignore these veterans, Luis Suarez and Cavani in particular. And I think you gotta choose one of them while you still have him. And I'm gonna choose Luis Suarez. Although this might not be the most exciting season from him in Atletico Madrid, we cannot ignore what he's done in history, and I think he is one of the best strikers to ever grace the pitch. And the last team we're looking at, South Korea. You gotta take Heung-min Son, don't you? It's absolutely crazy that Tottenham haven't won a trophy, honestly, because the partnership between him and Harry Kane has been phenomenal. One of the best partnerships we've seen in the Premier League, and definitely the best partnership that hasn't won a single trophy. In 31 appearances in the Premier League, he's got 19 goals and 8 assists. In terms of those numbers in particular, this actually might be one of his best Premier League seasons ever. And the season's obviously not over yet, so hats off to this guy. And yeah, obviously, all these statistics I threw out can very much change, just realizing that now. But you know what? The numbers will be close regardless. We're approaching towards the end of the season. We got another one coming up, and then the World Cup in the middle of that season. Still got a long time till the World Cup, but you know what? I don't think this list is going to change too much apart from the few exceptions here and there. We still got a long way to go, but you know what? I still cannot wait. Let me know your thoughts on this list in the comments below. Thank you all for making it to the end. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all next time. Take care. Boa noite.